Hello, everybody. This is Christina Fasonic broadcasting live from Wheeling, West Virginia. And tonight we have a new writer, like we always do on Mondays and Thursdays. And tonight our writer is someone that those of us who do all this work for WCONA know pretty well. Let me bring on my co-host, Damian Dressick, and then we'll introduce her. Hello, Damian.
Good evening, Christina. How are you tonight?
I am fantastic. How are you?
I am fine, thank you.
Okay, great. Well, tonight, as you know, we have our colleague, Heather Moser, on the show, and she does so much work for us for the Writers' Conference of Northern Appalachia, and she also is the, I believe, interview editor for the Northern Appalachia Review. Is that correct?
She is one of the... I might not. I think she's the reviews editor, as well as being the interview editor, and I want to say she may be also one of the nature editors. She wears many hats.
Cool.
She wears hats.
Absolutely. So she works with the Journal. Yeah, where's your hat tonight?
I could probably be wearing my hat tonight.
She works.
No. We're very excited about bringing one of WCONA's own to read for y'all. What can you tell the people
let me tell you
about Heather?
Let me tell you a little bit more about her. She grew up in the foothills of Appalachia, like so many of us Northern Appalachia folks did. She is a classics professor, an author, and a researcher. Her areas of study include some really cool stuff, like moral panics, particularly related to the Bacchic cult during the Roman Republic and the European Witch Craze of the 14th and 17th century, which sounds amazing. Fluctuation. Go ahead.
Oh, no. Moral panic and the witch craze. I love that.
Yes. The fluctuation of Julius Caesar's memory throughout history, the preservation and transmission of Appalachian folklore, and lore related to and evolving from cursed objects, which is absolutely fascinating. And we share ghost stories with each other sometimes when we're bored. So, as we said, Heather is an active member of the Writers' Conference and also a member of the editorial board for the Journal. She has also served as a guest author and narrator for Steve Stockton's 13 Past Midnight podcast, an ongoing contributor to the Weird Writer blog for Into the Fray radio podcast, as well as the Caravan Library of Lore, which is some really cool stuff. Her work covers folkloric elements from different time periods and cultures, and she is also a researcher for the film production company Small Town Monsters, assisting with films such as MOMO, The Missouri Monster, and upcoming The Mothman Legacy. So Heather is a very interesting person and does a lot of really super fascinating stuff. And so why don't we bring her on?
Oh, that sounds like a great idea. That is quite a bio. There are things in there even I did not know about Heather.
Yes, and we've known her for over a year now. So let's bring her on. Hello, Heather.
Hi.
I just saw that your friend Steve had something to say.
Yay!
To introduce you on, as well as Anne. So are you looking forward to doing your reading tonight?
I am. I actually wrote this specifically for this evening for WCONA. So
excellent.
Yeah.
And I know you watch our show a lot, not out of obligation, but because you're interested in what our readers bring to the table. So we are so glad that you could join us tonight and give us some of your time.
I'm glad to be here.
Excellent. All right. Well, we will disappear and then we'll be back on in a little bit when you're finished.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, so this is called What is Home? Home is a juxtaposition that runs so deep it hurts. It is Confederate flags on Union soil, stained with blood, sweat, and tears of immigrants from an ocean away. It is a land that still carries the spirit of the native people we pushed out, a spirit which we celebrate and are fascinated by, but only through festivals and romanticized ideas of the underdog who was abused. We have flattened their mounds for fields, but are reminded every once in a while of their memory as an arrowhead is unearthed after the land has been tilled. It is woods so deep and houses so isolated there is no access to internet, and my cell phone is rendered useless. But within 2 hours, I could be in the center of downtown Cleveland, Pittsburgh, Columbus, or across the river into West Virginia. It is an hour to the mall, if that's a thing anymore, and an hour to the hospital, if there is an emergency, but within walking distance of a one-room schoolhouse and within 2 minutes of a church. It is a community that refuses to pass a school levy because what was good for me and my parents and grandparents and so on and so forth should be good enough for you. But then complains when the district gets assistance from the state and oil and gas companies to build a new 6 through 12 school without any increase in their taxes. Why couldn't they build an elementary too? This is all a conspiracy to ask for an operating levy later down the line. All the while, the school feeds the community during the summers and the pandemic. Yet those school teachers, you know, they just can't be trusted. Home is lauding those who went on to become bigger and better, yet returned to bring new lifeblood to the community. How can things get better if the younger generations don't return? It is guilt and shame for not believing in a particular faith, but utmost reverence in folk wisdom and tending to the earth. It is a distrust of outsiders, but a pull to travel and meet new faces. It is anger and frustration. It is a desire to run away and never come back because I am so disgusted with how backward everyone is at home that I wouldn't want to live there again. As soon as I can, I move away. But above all the frustrating and painful juxtapositions jockeying in my mind, it is home in every good sense of the word. It is a place filled with people who are loving and caring and have worked hard all their lives. It is camaraderie against those who are hateful because we are tired of having an isolated world. It is an acknowledgement that we know better and can do better, and that I can be a part of that. Home is where my ancestors lived and loved. It is where I walked next door to my grandma's every day and explored the woods with my brother. It's where I drove his four-wheeler into the creek because he hadn't shown me how to brake yet before he let me hit the gas. Thankfully, the neighbor had a tractor and a chain to pull it out. Sorry again, Gary. It is where everyone knows me and my parents and grandparents and have stories and secrets about all of them. Some they will gladly share and others I will never know. It is a comfort in knowing that someone knows and cares. There is no such thing as anonymity at home. It is stories from Grandpa about the pranks he pulled and memories told by my great aunt about that same orniness that ran through her father, who died long before I was born. Home is hearing stories about when my grandma bought a Ouija board that was used only once before my aunt had it burned out of fear that a portal would be opened. It is stories of an old farmhouse being haunted by a ghost named Elizabeth. It is hearing stories from others about my chatty, good-natured grandfather, whom I only knew to be quiet and strict. It is long abandoned family cemeteries nestled in the woods, poison ivy-covered headstones broken and all but forgotten, begging to be saved before they are altogether gone from memory and swallowed by the ground. It is a desire to learn about those heavily worn carven names just barely visible under thick lichen, their memory being preserved only by the granite which has been exposed to the elements for nearly 200 years. It is waiting all summer for the county fair with excitement and trepidation because that simultaneously meant I could see my friends for the first time since May, but also that there were only a few weeks left before school started up again. It's lightning bugs in jars and fireworks on the 4th. It's being raised on country music, but understanding the feeling behind the gravelly tone that carries in the voices echoed through rock music. It's grabbing the buggy for Grandma as soon as we walked into the grocery store in the anticipation of that treat of sharing a pop with her once we got home. It is whoosh and poosh and being told that makes me sound uneducated if I utter that pronunciation outside of my county. It is stubbornness and sass and not putting up with anyone's shit, especially if I feel there is dishonesty in the mix. It is being told before going anywhere as a child to not act like a heathen. even though I didn't know what that meant at the time. But what I did know was that if I played my cards right, I would get a sprinkled donut at the bakery, or maybe a hot dog outside of Super Duper anyway. Home is my dad tucking me in at night after reading me a bedtime story, promising me that he will always protect me no matter what. It is my mom loving me through those difficult teenage years as she showed me compassion that I could never understand until I became a mother myself. It is understanding that those who throw slurs our way have not lived here and have not endured our troubles. It is likewise an understanding that I cannot speak to the suffering of others because, like I do not know them, they cannot know me, and therefore I can only love and respect. I cannot and will not judge. It is a knowledge in the deepest part of my soul that I am a product of my upbringing, and with that comes a debt to all those who came here before me, the suffering they endured, the company they kept, and the relationships that resulted in each member of my family. It is the foothills where my favorite intersection of deer trails exists amongst the pines, not too far from the boulders that are the remnants of when the glaciers receded. It is the sound of the mourning dove in the evening and the smell of the rain on the dirt outside. It is learning to drive on back roads with loose stones and navigating from work after dark in deep snow, being keenly aware that unless I wanted to be sucked into a ditch or fishtail across lanes, it is best to not speed or slam on the brakes. Home is home. So much frustration, but so much good. Home is better than I realized as a child and will be better for the next generation. And to be honest, I haven't felt home since I left. Thanks.
Thank you.
I loved it.
Yay.
Wonderful. I just wanted to say that I too have wrecked an all-terrain vehicle in the creek before.
Yeah.
Once a go-kart, a mini bike. I have an excuse for that. And I really feel that weight of those juxtapositions of loving and hating and somewhere in between. And yet here I am in Appalachia, where I feel like a big part of me belongs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. The best part about that four-wheeler incident is that my brother had broken his ribs before that. And so he was trying to chase after me with a broken rib. And I remember when I finally landed in the water, the only thing I was thinking is, oh, my brother's going to kill me. And I turn around and he's just laughing, bent over, holding his side, laughing so hard. Made me feel better.
Because that's how siblings work, right?
Yeah, right. Thankfully, yes.
What are your thoughts, Damien? Do you have any thoughts for Heather?
I'd like to meet some of these portal opening heathens.
Well, yeah.
I like my kind of people.
Yep. I'm telling you, man. That my babysitter would always tell us that every time before she'd take us anywhere. Don't you act like heathens. I'm like, okay. Whatever that means.
I'm afraid to say that I'm still acting like a heathen.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'd get banned and get no pop afterwards. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. It was beautiful. And as you can tell by all of the great comments and from people near and far, people really loved what you had to say, and I'm sure can identify with that. You know, it's a beautiful, beautiful place filled with lovely, wonderful people. But sometimes, especially for creatives, it can be a hard place to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
And those of us who wear our hearts on our sleeves sometimes, or on our bare arms, depending on what you're doing.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
So up next week is a colleague of mine from California University of Pennsylvania, Dr. Brent House. He will be reading some poetry, and he hasn't said what he's reading, but knowing his work, it'll have something to do with the pastoral.
Mm.
So, and he's a very fine poet with a lovely Mississippi accent, although he lives here and has lived here for a while now. So tune in, everybody, if you want to hear Dr. House next week. Thank you again, Heather.
Yes, thank you.
Thanks, Heather.
Yeah. Hi, Dad.
Got to put him up there.
Yeah. Thanks,
All
Dad.
right. We'll see you at the next planning committee meeting.
Yes. I'll see you tomorrow.
All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
See you later, everyone.